Thank you so much for that. And thank you all so much for coming today to this wonderful rally. Thank you. I'm delighted to be part of a cross-party group in Leave Means Leave, because this issue, above all, goes right across party politics, and my country comes before my party. And I'm feeling actually a little angry today, because here we are, 2 years later. I'm angry that we have to be here today after the biggest ever turnout in any election, 30 million people voting, 17.4 million people voting to leave. And yet we are here today because we are having to actually say again to the government that we want a proper, clean Brexit, and that our vote matters, and that we will not allow it to be stolen away from us. Now, I remember being here in Bolton. I remember being here in Bolton before the referendum, and after that rally, it was a terrific rally because it's always great to get out of London and talk about the EU. In London, it's very different. I remember talking to people after the rally who said to me, some of them actually with tears in their eyes, that this was the first time they were going to vote. They had never voted before. And they were passionate, they were determined, and they knew what they were voting for. And that's why it makes me angry when we hear the patronising voices of the mainly London establishment saying that people didn't know the real issues, that they were stupid, that they were unenlightened, if we know what that word means, they said, and that we were probably racist. How dare they? And it is those very same people calling now for a people's vote. Well, the message goes out from here today. We've had the vote. We don't want another vote. We don't need another vote. We just want to leave. Now, another reason I'm angry today is that I'm actually very fed up with the way our country is being run down by some of these Remainers. Their negativity is breathtaking, and of course it's been supported by the siren voices coming from elements within even our great BBC. And of course other news media. And you know, you wonder sometimes, whose side are these people on? And then you don't have to wonder, because you know that many of them are on the side of the EU. And I know that many of us have even stopped watching Newsnight and listening to the Today programme, because everything that is bad is because of Brexit, and anything that is good is despite Brexit. Now, the third reason I'm angry is really because, as a Labour MP and a long-term opponent of the anti-democratic and neoliberal Brussels Club, where I was joined for the last 30 years in every single lobby against the EU by the now leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn. And I'm very angry that my party is still sitting on the fence. They feel very clearly that they don't quite want to say what they really want to say. Our manifesto was very clear. It stated that we would honour the referendum result and leave the single market and the customs union, and yet we have allowed a bunch of mainly Labour Remain MPs to spend every moment of their time in the last 2 years in Parliament trying to slow down or actually stop us leaving. And I'm often asked, do I feel lonely in Parliament? Because there aren't many of us in the Parliament on the Labour side, although we know that we've got 17.4 million people out there, so I'm not really that lonely. But people like Frank Field, Graham Stringer, John Mann, Kelvin Hopkins. And the answer is no, I don't feel lonely, because I and my colleagues are following in the footsteps of the great stalwarts of the Labour movement, people like Hugh Gateskill, Peter Shore, Tony Benn, and the wonderful Barbara Castle. Every one of them now, if they were still living, would be here with us and members of the Leave Means Leave campaign. And I just watched recently a Barbara Castle speech that she made at the Oxford Union way back just before 2008. Instead, the EU overthrew the elected government and imposed years of grinding poverty to ensure the health of the euro. And Italy, when the Italian banks got into difficulty, so threatening the integrity of the euro, the EU forced the elected Prime Minister to resign and replaced him with an EU bureaucrat professional. Remember the euro debate here in the UK, when we were being asked did we want to join, or they were talking about it, all those senior politicians pushing us to join. Is there anything familiar, do you think, in the names? The Blairs, the Cleggs, the Mandelsons, the Ashdowns, the Heseltines. And yes, you're right, they're the very same people who told us it would be a disaster if we didn't join the euro. They're now the very same ones telling us it will be a disaster if we leave the EU rules. After all, the rest of the world operates successfully with those rules, because we need to be free of the tentacles of the Lisbon Treaty, because what the Lisbon Treaty has done, the Lisbon Treaty has gradually squeezed out every bit of democracy and trying to within the member states. You look at all the things that have been signed, the accession signed by the Tories in 1972. There was no referendum, no consultation. The single market signed by the Tories in 1986, no referendum, no consultation. Maastricht signed by the Conservatives in 92, no referendum, no consultation. Amsterdam signed by Labour 97, no referendum, no consultation. Nice signed by Labour 2000, no referendum. Lisbon signed by Labour, no referendum. And despite many countries voting against many of those treaties, what did the EU do? Turn around and said, you're going to have another referendum, and this time you'll support it. And that's what they've been trying to do with us. But they're not going to succeed, because they have... because they underestimate, and they shouldn't underestimate if they look back at the history of this country, they underestimate how strong we are when we are up against it. And we are up against it at the EU, and we're going to win. Now, I just want to say something about Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland border, because I come from Northern Ireland. I know all about the border. I remember the border. My first and most important point, and it is one that I have to say the Prime Minister made very clearly this week. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, and we will not allow anything to change that situation. And let's not forget that the hard border, the only time there's been a hard border was when the IRA were coming over, killing British soldiers, killing policemen, putting their bombs there, bringing over ammunition, bringing over bombs. That was when the hard border was there. There's always been a common travel area, and this whole border issue, which is now becoming this huge chibboleth that is apparently stopping all progress, has been absolutely politicised by both the EU and, I'm afraid to say, the Irish government. And the worst thing of all is the idea that we, in this country, should change our policy on leaving the EU or making part of the United Kingdom stay in bits of the EU because it might bring back the dissidents. What kind of country are we that we actually would change our policy because of a few hoodlums and gangsters that we should be putting in jail and not changing our policy to actually correct? And I have to say that I hear a little bird tells me that the Irish Taoiseach might actually want to become an EU commissioner. And that might be why he's trying to sort of curry favour So I think, finally on the border issue, I think what we should simply say to the EU is, if you want a border, you build it. If the Irish Republic want a border, they can build it. We are not building a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. I think I'm being looked at. Have I gone on too long? Right. I just... I want to just be optimistic, having started off being very angry. You know, we are a great country. We are the 5th largest economy in the world by GDP standards. We're one of the 5 major military powers. We have a seat at the United Nations Security Council. We're amongst the leaders in IT development. We have the 2nd largest aerospace industry in the world. We have more world-class universities than the rest of the EU combined. We have the most efficient agricultural sector in the EU. Our legal system is respected all over the world, and we have the English language. So what have we got to fear by becoming an independent, free country? We have to show that we are determined that the vote of the British people 2 years ago will be honoured. The more we are bullied, the more the EU bullies us, the more we see some members of Parliament trying to step back on what the vote was, the more determined we are that we will win. And I have to say that there are 2 or 3 things that everybody here can do. One is that, as has already been said, do write to your own Member of Parliament, even if they are a Leaver and a very strong Leaver, and I know that your own local MP will be appearing here today, but make sure you write to your MP, either to give them encouragement or to remind them of what that referendum was about, and to remind them that Parliament voted by a huge majority that it would be the final say. That it wouldn't be, there'd be no second chance, no coming back. This was your decision. And Cameron himself said that. And of course he said it because he thought he was going to win by hands down. But the reality is we need to be saying that. We need to be challenging all the time, challenging our MPs, challenging those establishments, those people in the establishment who have that doom and gloom, and actually challenge them to say whose side they are on. I have great confidence in our country. I believe that we need to get out there, that a no deal is a no problem. No deal is no problem. That is what we need to be saying. And if they don't want to trade with us freely, then no deal, and no deal is no problem. Theresa May memorably stated, Brexit means Brexit. So what does the word Brexit mean? It stands for Britain and exit. Exit means leave. And what part of leave do the hardcore Remainers not understand? I say to them, get on with it.